All right, so today we're diving into a topic that's both fascinating and maybe a little bit unsettling.
Yeah.
Antichrist conspiracy theories. We're
Yeah.
talking about those ideas that suggest
Right.
that there is a powerful, deceptive figure
Yeah.
who is working behind the scenes
hmm
to control the world and bring about some kind of apocalyptic endgame. Now, I just want to be clear. We're not here to debunk or endorse anything.
Right.
We're here to dive deep into these theories and try to understand, where do they come from? Why do they continue to kind of grip our imaginations?
Well, it's interesting because this figure of the Antichrist has persisted for centuries,
Oh, yeah.
weaving its way into our culture, our consciousness. And what I find particularly interesting is how these theories really tap into some of our deepest anxieties
Right.
about power, about control, about the fragility of the world.
Exactly. We're
Yeah.
talking about global domination plots,
hmm
secret societies, the infamous Mark of the
Oh,
Beast, and of course, the looming threat of the apocalypse. So consider this your invitation to join us as we kind of sift through the evidence, explore the historical and cultural context, and try to understand why these theories hold such a powerful grip on so many people.
I think a good place to start would be the source material,
Yep.
which is the Bible, specifically the New Testament, particularly the letters of John and the book of Revelation.
Right.
These texts actually introduce this concept of the Antichrist, a figure who opposes Christ and seeks to deceive and control humanity.
Now, I know some of our listeners are probably thinking, wait, isn't Revelation like all about those cryptic symbols and visions?
That's right.
And you'd be absolutely right. It's a book filled with some pretty wild imagery and metaphors that have been interpreted in countless ways throughout history.
Precisely. And, even among theologians,
Yeah.
there's no single universally agreed upon interpretation of Revelation. And that's part of what makes it so ripe for conspiracy theorizing, that ambiguity allows for this wide range of interpretation.
Okay, so let's try to pinpoint some of the key characteristics associated with the Antichrist, at least according to these biblical texts. What are we looking for here?
Well, the Antichrist is often depicted as a charismatic and deceptive leader, someone who can sway the masses with their rhetoric and promises.
So a real smooth talker, able to manipulate people.
Exactly. They promote a false religion or ideology that's designed to lead people astray from the true faith. And ultimately, their goal is to oppose Christ and his followers,
Okay.
leading to a period of great tribulation and persecution.
So we've got this ancient prophecy about a figure called the Antichrist. But how does that translate to the modern world?
Well, this is where things get really interesting because many conspiracy theories link the Antichrist to real-world figures and events,
Right.
suggesting that this biblical prophecy is unfolding before our very eyes.
It's a fascinating leap, isn't it?
Yep.
Taking something from ancient text and applying it to the present day.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the most common threads that I've noticed running through these theories is this idea of the Antichrist as a political mastermind,
Yes.
someone who's orchestrating a global power grab to establish what they call a new world order. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit? What exactly are we talking about here when we say new world order?
So imagine a single totalitarian regime controlling every aspect of life on Earth.
Yeah.
The economy, the media, government, even personal freedoms. That's the vision often painted by these theories.
A very dystopian vision.
It is quite dystopian, a world under the iron fist of the Antichrist.
And the question then becomes, how would someone even achieve that level of control?
Right.
Because these theories must have some pretty elaborate explanations for how someone could exert that much influence over the entire planet.
Oh, absolutely. And they do. They often involve shadowy organizations, secret agendas, and intricate conspiracies that span continents and infiltrate every level of society.
So it's not just about one powerful individual,
No.
but a whole network of people
Yes, very much a network, you could say a hidden elite.
working behind the scenes.
Right, manipulating global events to their advantage.
And of course, we can't forget about the whole false religion angle. The Antichrist isn't just a political figure, they're also meant to be a spiritual deceiver.
That's a crucial element. Many theories suggest that the Antichrist will introduce a new, deceptive belief system, one that's designed to replace traditional religions and ensnare the masses.
So it's not just about controlling resources
Yeah.
or territories, but about controlling the very fabric of belief and faith.
Absolutely. It's a spiritual power play, a way to control people's minds and hearts as well as their physical lives.
Now, let's talk about some of the evidence that is presented in support of these theories. What are we dealing with here? What kind of evidence are we looking at?
A lot of the evidence is what we might call circumstantial. It relies heavily on interpreting current events through the lens of these prophecies, often drawing connections between seemingly unrelated occurrences.
So like connecting the dots.
Yeah, you could say that, but maybe the dots aren't actually meant to be connected.
Right, right.
There's a lot of speculation, a lot of interpretation, and a very selective focus on information that seems to confirm these pre-existing beliefs.
And I imagine in the age of the internet, with endless information at our fingertips, it's easier than ever to fall down those rabbit holes and find evidence to support just about any theory.
That's one of the challenges of the digital age, isn't it? The internet has become this breeding ground for conspiracy theories, allowing them to spread and evolve at an unprecedented rate.
So if we're being honest here,
Mm.
are there any clear, objective criteria for identifying the Antichrist in the real world? Or is it all just subjective interpretation?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It seems like it.
And it's one we'll definitely explore further as we kind of delve deeper into these theories.
Okay.
But I think for now, it's important to remember that applying these ancient prophecies to modern figures and events is inherently tricky.
Right.
It requires a certain degree of interpretation, which, as we've discussed, can be highly subjective.
All right, so we've laid some groundwork here,
Yeah.
exploring kind of the biblical origins of the Antichrist and how those ideas have morphed into these really complex modern-day conspiracy theories.
Hmm.
But this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So what are some of the ways these theories actually manifest in contemporary society?
Right.
And what are the psychological factors that make them so appealing even when the evidence is shaky?
Those are great questions, and ones we are going to dive headfirst into as we continue our deep dive.
All right, so stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back, everyone. We've been unpacking those Antichrist conspiracy theories, exploring their origins and really trying to understand what makes them so darn compelling.
It's interesting, right? The Antichrist as a concept almost seems designed to tap into those deep-seated anxieties we have about the world.
It's like a horror movie villain come to life, but instead of lurking in the shadows,
Right.
this figure is supposedly pulling the strings of global events.
Yeah. Exactly. It's giving a face, a name, a tangible target to all those anxieties about the future, about things spiraling out of control.
It's just easier to point the finger at a single evil mastermind than it is to actually try to grapple with the complexities of, global politics, economics, or even just like the randomness of life.
It's the allure of a simple narrative, isn't it? Conspiracy theories, particularly those centered around the Antichrist, they offer this sense of order in a world that often feels very chaotic and overwhelming.
Right, right. It's like you have that clear-cut bad guy in a movie.
Yeah.
You know who to blame for all the bad stuff happening.
And it creates this sense of urgency, this feeling that we're not just living through history, but through some monumental showdown between good and evil.
Which, let's be honest, can be kind of exciting in a morbid sort of way. It's like we're living in a real-life thriller with us, the unsuspecting public, caught right in the middle.
There's definitely that thrill of feeling in the know, like you've stumbled upon this secret knowledge that most people are oblivious to, and it taps into that desire to feel special, to be part of something bigger than ourselves.
So it's not just about fear, then. There's also this element of empowerment.
Right.
Like feeling like you're not just a passive observer, but you're actively engaged in uncovering this grand conspiracy.
Precisely. It's about finding meaning, even if it's within a framework that others might consider, irrational or delusional. But that brings us to a really crucial question.
Right.
How do we navigate this landscape of information, particularly in the digital age where these theories can spread like wildfire?
Right, because discerning fact from fiction is a constant challenge online, so where do we even begin?
I think it starts with recognizing that healthy skepticism is crucial. It's not about blind belief, nor is it about cynical dismissal. It's about finding that middle ground
Yeah.
where you're questioning everything, but you're also open to the possibility that some things might actually be true.
So finding that balance between being discerning but also remaining open-minded is a tough needle to thread.
It is, but it's essential. We need to hone those critical thinking skills, learn how to evaluate sources effectively, and most importantly, I think, recognize our own biases.
Yeah, because we all have biases.
Right.
They color how we see the world
Yeah.
and the information we encounter.
Absolutely. And those biases can unconsciously influence how we interpret information, especially when it's something as emotionally charged as the Antichrist.
It's almost like we're all wearing these tinted glasses that distort our perception, making it harder to distinguish between genuine evidence and mere speculation.
That's a great analogy. And sometimes those glasses can make us particularly susceptible to misinformation, especially if it confirms our existing beliefs or fears.
Yeah, I know. I've definitely fallen for dubious claims online before, especially when they kind of play into some pre-existing fear or concern.
It happens to the best of us.
Hmm.
The key is to be aware of those vulnerabilities and cultivate that self-awareness, that ability to step back and say, okay, why am I drawn to this? What need is this fulfilling for me?
So it's not just about fact-checking the information, but also about, like, checking ourselves,
Hmm.
questioning our own motivations, and being honest about why we believe what we believe.
Exactly. It's about understanding that sometimes our desire to believe can be stronger than the evidence itself.
And this leads to, I think, a much deeper question. Why are these Antichrist theories so persistent? What makes this figure, this concept, so enduring throughout history?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. The Antichrist, as this embodiment of evil, really speaks to some very primal fears about the world, about our own vulnerability.
It plays on our fear of the unknown, of forces beyond our control.
Precisely. And it taps into our fascination with those good versus evil narratives, those epic struggles that have been central to storytelling for millennia.
It's almost like we're hardwired for these kinds of stories.
Yeah.
The Antichrist becomes this ultimate antagonist, giving shape to our anxieties about the world.
And let's not forget, these theories also offer a strange sense of comfort. It can be strangely reassuring to believe that there's a plan, even if it's a sinister one.
So rather than facing the chaos of the world head on, it can be comforting to believe someone, even if evil, is in control.
Exactly. It simplifies the complexities of the world, offering this scapegoat for everything that's wrong. But that doesn't mean we should just accept these theories uncritically.
Right.
Remember, questioning, analyzing, seeking understanding, those are vital tools in navigating this landscape of information.
All right, so we've explored the psychology behind these theories.
Yes.
But what about their real-world impact? Do these beliefs just exist in online forums, or do they actually spill over into concrete actions and events?
That's a great question, and one that we'll explore as we continue.
Welcome back. We've been really digging into these Antichrist conspiracy theories. We've looked at where they came from, the psychology behind them. But, now I kind of want to take a step back and look at the bigger picture here. What does this whole fascination with the Antichrist tell us about, ourselves? About our relationship with belief, power, the future, all that kind of stuff?
It's remarkable how this one idea, this one figure,
Yeah.
has resonated with people for centuries, shaping how we think about good and evil, influencing art, literature, even politics.
And it seems like those anxieties about a deceptive, controlling figure are even more, I don't know, pronounced in our current era.
Oh,
With
absolutely.
all the uncertainty and rapid change we're experiencing.
The digital age has certainly amplified those fears with information and misinformation
Right.
spreading so rapidly. It's just so much easier for these types of theories to take root and spread.
So I guess the question then becomes, are we just doomed to fall prey to these fears and anxieties?
Mhm.
Is there any way to navigate this whole complex landscape of information
Right.
without getting swept away by, paranoia and suspicion?
I don't think it's about trying to eradicate fear or skepticism completely. I mean, those are natural human responses to the unknown.
Yeah.
We can learn to engage with those feelings in a more constructive way.
So how do we do that? How do we cultivate that healthy skepticism without kind of succumbing to the allure of these often, pretty outlandish theories?
I think it starts with critical thinking.
Okay.
Always asking questions, digging a little deeper, looking for solid evidence, considering different perspectives.
Yeah.
Don't just accept something at face value because it confirms what you already believe or it plays into your fears.
Right, right. Like we were talking about before, it's about fact-checking the information, but also like checking ourselves,
Exactly.
understanding our own biases, our vulnerabilities to these kind of narratives.
It's so important. And remember, it's okay to hold multiple possibilities in your mind at the same time. You can acknowledge, the potential for abuse of power, for manipulation, without necessarily subscribing to this grand, all-encompassing conspiracy theory.
So it's about nuance, about recognizing that the world is complex, and there rarely are simple answers or single villains to blame for all our problems.
Absolutely. And it's about understanding that this search for truth, it's a process, a journey, not
Hmm.
a destination. We may never have all the answers,
Right.
but that shouldn't stop us from asking questions and seeking deeper understanding.
We've explored a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We had.
We delved into the history, the psychology, and, those contemporary manifestations of the Antichrist conspiracy theories.
Right.
But now we want to kind of turn it over to you, the listeners.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Do you see the Antichrist as a literal figure, a symbolic representation of our anxieties, or maybe something else entirely? How do you navigate this just overwhelming amount of information available online, particularly when it comes to these emotionally charged topics?
We really encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, to question, to engage in thoughtful conversations about them.
Yeah, keep these conversations going.
Remember, critical thinking, healthy skepticism, and open dialogue. Those are the tools we need to navigate this increasingly complex world.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive for today. We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit unsettling. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Until next time, stay curious.